Welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner, Classic Lesson Known Classics. This is episode number 2786 and episode number 2680. First up, we're discussing for this one the final trade for Batgirl. Batgirl Redemption, which collects issues 1 through 6 of basically the second volume of Batgirl, which is a 6-issue miniseries written by Adam Beechin. Which, the best way to describe this series, it's an apology by him for turning Batgirl evil. And this all is up from the events of basically when he was co-writing the final issues of Jeff Johns' Teen Titans book. Now, throughout the book, some people are not happy with the fact that Cassandra Cain is back being Batgirl again. And of course, she is kind of with her father. And here's a sad fun fact about this miniseries. This would be David King's last appearance in a comic book for 7 years. He would not be seen again until Batman and Robin Eternal, where he was orphaned. That's what he called himself. Yep. Yeah, it's sad the fact David King, interesting character he is. It's just sad the fact he doesn't appear again after this. Not really. Is he dead? No, he just stopped appearing. Like, if you check out any comic book release from after this miniseries wrapped up until the Flash reboot, he does not appear. I do not remember him appearing in any comic book at all. This book probably was basically his goodbye because they were just moving on to Batgirl, and it was a way to, like the title suggests, it was a way to redeem the character. And I think it did a pretty good job of it, per se. And of course, Roman and the family. I think with this particular miniseries, I believe Cassandra Cain is adopted by Bruce Wayne as his own daughter, presumably. Yeah, despite the fact she's about 20-ish. Because I think when she first started being Batgirl, I think she was 17 when she started. Yeah, really tall woman. She wasn't short. And there's no denying the fact Cassandra Cain is a very beautiful woman. Well, she gets the beauty from her hot mom. Yes. But, really interesting miniseries. I don't find anything... The only thing I found fault with it is some of the artwork by Jay Califor. Yeah, and my guess is probably the reason why they decided to bring in David Cain, even though he has... I should point out, though, he has nothing to do with turning him into, turning her into a villain. Yeah, it was not his doing. This was all, the best way to describe it, this was all the doing of Deathstroke. Yep. And I'm going to give this miniseries a 9 out of 10. And with that, I'm done reading Batgirl. Yep. Yeah. Third episode in a row, I finished with something like 2 episodes ago, finished with The Outsiders. Last episode, I finished up Batman Chronicles. And now I finished up Batgirl. Yes. So now I'm going to discuss basically, first of which, before I talk about the regular issues here, there is a crossover that issue 101 is part of, known as World Without Young Justice, which started with Young Justice 44, continued in Robin 101, and part 3 was Impulse. Yes, Impulse. I think it was Impulse number 85. Part 4 was Superboy Volume 4, number 99, included in issue number 55. It is mostly put, the whole storyline is, what if basically these characters were erased from existence for a brief period of time? Now, it was part of thing called Older States. Now, here's kind of the thing. According to Chuck Dixon, when he saw this cover for Robin, it's sort of a storyline crossover with Young Justice, he saw this, and this is what he said in his podcast. He saw this cover because the whole the idea of Stephanie Brown replacing Tim Drake as Robin, this was something he suggested before he left Robin. He was told no, and then they did it without him anyways. To him, he saw this as a middle finger to him. It was not because he left. It's because some people didn't like him very much. And if you're curious who wrote the other books, now this Robin book was written by I think it was like Alan Lewis. Now, of course, Young Justice is written by Peter David, obviously. Impulse, which the whole thing with him, he becomes basically Kid Flash in this issue. This mostly is written by. Now, the thing is, at the start of this book, it was written by Mark Waid. Then he left after like the first 25 issue, about 30-ish issues. This is by Todd DeZanko, who did some writing for Spider-Man. Yep, I was right. He did the book for that one. Superboy, I believe when this book started, I think it was Carl Kitzler. Ketzel was basically the writer of this book. And at one point, Ron Martz was basically the writer of the book. And I think he briefly came back to the book before the book concluded. Similar to what he did with... Okay, this book is written by... basically its last writers, which was Jim Palmiotti, Dan DiDio, and artwork by Anthony Williams. It is What If Superboy Became Doomsday? It's a funny issue. Jim Palmiotti, when he wrote this book at this period of time, well, I can tell, because I wasn't reading the point, but I read it later, it's like the book became basically a love letter to Jack Kirby, because it featured Doubleshot and our character Jack Kirby created. But that's the Young Justice of a nutshell. Let's jump back to Robin. Irish number 102. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's written by... Come on. Stop it. I really appreciate if it stopped doing that. Yeah, for some reason, it likes to this website I use likes to jump to YouTube and go to videos I don't want to watch. Anyways, so... in these early issues, from like basically a lot of these early issues, that were written by John Lewis and art by Pete Woods, they're all standalone. A lot of these are standalone issues, and these issues are sadly not in trade. I believe Robin 101 is in trade thanks to Young Justice stuff, but as for 102 to 120, there is no trade to collect these issues. Are these issues bad? Shockingly, no. They're not as good as Chuck Dixon's issues, but I think John Lewis, basically, I can tell here, he's a decent successor to Chuck Dixon. The other writer was probably a temporary one. Yeah, because a lot of these issues is basically Tim continuing his relationship with Stephanie Brown. At one point, she was thinking of going home, but she was staying at a motel for a reason I explain here. And Tim's father is written to be a little more reasonable. And this is, of course, prior to his untimely death at the hands of Captain Boomerang in a weird plot involving Jean Loring. A bit later on, there's actually a test that Robin has to go through, where Robin gets a hint from possibly the future, to stop this terrorist thing. And it turns out it was all a test by Batman. So basically, Tim's like, I quit. Yeah, that's kind of what he did here. Because he had been used by Batman, and somehow Stephanie was involved with it. But I do like the fact that, to start with, the book was very much standalone-ish. Yes. And I do enjoy the fact that, basically, Tim's relationship with Stephanie gets developed here. Yeah, so also in these issues, the writer brought in Nocturna, a version of her anyways, for these brief issues. She's here for a handful of issues. She doesn't do a lot. She's here from issues 100 to basically 105. And then she's kind of written out of the book. Yeah. Yeah. So it's after the whole thing with Nocturna, these loose connecting issues, and oh, back in the fold, because Batman basically appears in the book. We also have debut character named Freakway, a character who appeared not a lot per se. He mostly appeared this one issue, and then became like a regular supporting character in Batman Family. It's like, oh, let's just basically debut a character who appears irregularly in our book. And then finally begin another story arc, so issue 107, Staggered Fruit, where it's Robin versus a guy called Croxus, who is basically Killer Moth. Yep. Yeah, and Killer Moth himself is in this book for about it's a brief story. It's basically for a few issues, and then basically like moving on from that. By the way, Sean Davis takes over the artwork here. Pete Davis leaves, and then we have Buried Secret, which is basically about a flashback involving the Riddler. Yeah, and here's the thing. So Stephanie tells Tim that her father died. And you're thinking, wait a minute, when did Clubmaster die at this point in time? Well, he got killed off in Suicide Squad, though he actually was alive and well. Yeah, they faked this. And then we jump to a new story called Wrong Town, which is a story involving the Riddler. Yes, the Riddler. Starts in issue number 112. Love the Mike Carlin cover art for 114 here. He actually is absent for issue 114. But the story itself basically concludes in issue like 115. Then we have Present Tense, where it's basically just him dealing with the Penguin and Two-Face. And then like No Escape. This Batman doesn't do much in this issue, and then just mostly a standalone issue. And then we have, this is basically the whole thing with, then we have Jagger, or Jeager. Yeah, he's a recurring villain from Chuck Dixon's book. Yeah, after this issue, he would not return again into issue 179, basically toward the end of the book. My guess is because Pete Woods probably just bringing him back for this issue. Yeah, and then we have, the Traitor. Yeah. Because basically last year she did with time travel, and the whole thing was basically about trying to protect Dick, his identity. Well, that's out the window with the very next story arc. Yep, because Bill Willingham takes over the next issue, and oh boy, I'll be talking about this next time. And because that very next story arc is basically a seed planted for War Games. But what do I feel with these issues? Issues 102 to 120. They're pretty good. They're not as good as Chuck Dixon issues. I love the Chuck Dixon issues. I still love this very day. After reading these issues like several years ago. But in my honest opinion, John Lewis is a decent follow-up to Chuck Dixon, but he's not Chuck Dixon. Not at all. I don't think these were offensive. I mean, yeah, basically 102's cover was offensive to Chuck Dixon. He didn't like it because, like I said, he throws him a finger. These issues, I don't think it was a problem per se. It's just that I don't think they're weak stories per se. I'd say they're decent stories because you definitely get what you buy when you read these issues. You definitely read a Robin book featuring Tim Drake. It just continues his romance with Stephanie, which, good job for John Lewis doing that. I'm surprised his run was very short. Only like, basically about 28 issues, and he left. And taking over a completely different writer. I'll talk about it another time. But what do I give these issues? Well, what about Justice League? I give that a 9 out of 10. Excuse me, for Robin 102 to 120. I give that 8.5 out of 10. Yep. Okay, so let's pretty much a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do not hit the like button. Next up, The Misfit of Demon King Academy. And if we get time, my last comic corner I have left to do. Okay, next video. Bye.